Hey everybody, and welcome to this episode of Rennch. On this episode, the cutest old man in the world helps me with machining my adapter plate between the Subaru EZ30 R and the Porsche transmission. Christopher Cruz from Outfront Motorsports, premier Subaru tuning shop in the world, comes by to strip a bunch of stuff we don't need off the EZ30 R. And Dave Buzoglu from TRE Motorsports, one of the premier Porsche tuning shops in the world, comes by to help me with my flares and getting my pedal assembly correct in the car. We kind of have a three-part episode with three very distinct things going on and three different guests. We start with Bob, who's the cutest little old man you've ever seen in your life, who is a machinist for 60 years. And he helps me by machining the inner lip of my adapter plate so that it fits. So that's going to be the first thing we do. The second thing we do is Chris from Outfront Motorsports comes by right here in the Rennch lab to help me strip all the stuff off of the Subaru EZ30, install the headers, get it really, really close to the final resting place before I build the cradle, and was so instrumental in helping me figure out like what to keep and what to ditch and what goes where on that particular engine. The third guest is Dave Buzoglu from TRE Motorsports, who comes by and we talk more flares because I still haven't fully decided what I'm going to do yet with my flares. And we work on the pedal assembly. So I have to do a lot of custom pedal work to get this mishmash of 1989 pedal assembly with Porsche 993 clutch slave cylinder with 2008 C4S drive-by-wire pedal and all this crazy stuff that I have to figure out how to make it all work together. So that's part 3 of this episode. You guys, holy crap. If you go back to that last episode we did, and I said, comment, tell me where you're from. Now, I put a bunch of comments and responses as well, but there's like 300 plus comments on that, which is just sick. For this episode, I would love for you guys to put your Instagram handle in the comments below so we can all follow each other and again kind of create this rad DIY Rennch community from all over the world. So stick your Instagram handle down in the comments right now and let's all be friends, shall we? So without further ado, let's head over to the cutest little old man machinist in Huntington Beach while he performs his mastery on our Porsche to Subaru adapter plate. Hey guys, so I'm here at SB Enterprises. This is Bob Hoffman. Come on up here, Bob, for a second. Bob has been machining for 60 years. He's been doing this gig, and I'm really curious. You've been doing it this long. What do you still find interesting about this work?
Well, something new. It seemed like I always like doing repair. It's always a challenge, to fix up something that somebody's brings you, and you have to try to make it work.
It's problem solving.
Yeah.
That's what, and it's kind of it's what I like about being in the garage at all, which is, it's this, if you're a car guy or a machinist, you've got to figure out, like, you spend a ton of time just trying to figure out, because what we're doing here is we've got my transmission adapter plate, and we've got to shave off a 1/4 inch on the inside of the ring. Well, you've spent a fair bit of time just trying to figure out how to center the thing and how to get it to spin.
Yeah.
We couldn't put it on your lathe because it's too big, so you had to go through a pretty crazy process to get this thing centered so you can do the work on it. Yeah. That's the cerebral part.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's the mental acuity part that I think is really cool about it.
Yeah, right.
So what we're going to do here is I'm going to show you guys. He's going to kind of get into shaving this thing down, and we'll show you how he's got it set up, and then we'll let him do his master craftsman work. Thanks, Bob.
All right, thank you.
All right, so check this out. What he did is he had to find the center of this, and he had to drill and tap these 4 locating pins and then secure the entire thing, raise the entire thing off this table. Are you able to show what the table does, or do you have to start it working? So when you turn that lever, the whole thing rotates. And then what's going to happen is that this thing, he's got set up perfectly, and as this spins, he will continue to raise and raise and raise until this thing cuts about a 1/4 inch hole, right? Isn't that the idea?
Right.
And then how long does that usually take? Like how many passes would that take? Because you're doing thousandths at a time, right?
Well, I haven't really got a good feel actually. Probably I was going to try to start off with about a 60,000 or something like that and see how that works. And maybe that when you crank the handle, it feeds awfully fast.
Oh, right. It moves quick.
Really,
Right.
pretty fast. So I don't want to try to take off too much because it starts to want to this thing sticking out.
Does it bind and
Well, it starts chattering.
you don't want to break stuff?
Yeah.
You wanna-
I don't want to mess up your part. You know.
Yeah, that too. We don't want to mess up the part.
Yeah, really.
But this whole shop is just full of these really great tool. Like back when they made tools like this that were industrial and. Do you feel like they've that the quality of some of these tools isn't as good now as it used to be?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. I mean, this thing looks.
The older machinery works lasts considerably long.
I mean, it's still here.
Yeah.
Right. What year is this thing from?
It's probably 50 years old.
Yeah,
I would say.
at least 50.
Yeah.
Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Maybe more, maybe.
All right, you want to try to fire it up and see what happens?
Yeah, there we go.
Bob, you've nailed it. We got this part. Here we are. We shaved a little more than a 1/4 inch, 1 extra millimeter, just to clear this flywheel. And so now I'm going to take it back to the shop. I'm going to bolt it on the engine, see if I have enough clearance, and see if this thing works. And then I have to sort out getting the exact right starter for this. Turns out that the 3 previous starters that I've gotten for this are still not the right one. So I'm on to number 4. So we'll see you over at the shop. Okay, I'm back in the shop. I, of course, forgot my starter over there, so I have to drive back and get it. But I've got the plate and got an engine. So we're gonna see if the thing fits now. Hopefully it fits with a little bit of clearance. I'll try to show you guys what was hitting before and what we just hopefully cleared out. And we are one step closer to getting this thing to bolt together. Okay, we are good to go. If you see down here, it's kind of hard to see, but so the teeth were hitting this inside and it wasn't allowing the plate to go flush to the engine. Now it's perfect. It's spinning freely. Next challenge is going to be to find the correct starter that doesn't interfere with the spinning version of this, which has been a challenge so far. And once that's done, though, we are in pretty good shape. All right, dudes. So as you guys know, I'm not a Subaru expert, so I was able to bring one in. This is Christopher Cruz, who not only works for Outfront Motorsports, who's like one of the premier Subaru tuning and fabrication shops in the world, but he has Cruz Infinity Fabrications. He's a welder, a fabricator, a guy who knows a lot about these engines. First of all, thanks for being here, Chris. Thanks for coming out. tell me if you could. You've worked on a million of these
Yes.
engines. Tell me what's your thought about this particular motor?
I think this is going to be one of the better motors for this application because going from what it was to what it can be, you guys can do anywhere from the stock 300 horsepower to upwards of 800 that we've seen at Outfront Motorsports.
These guys have this engine on. You guys do like a ton of sand rails and dune buggies and stuff like that,
Lots
right?
of off-road.
But like this engine with internals done can do like 800 horsepower.
This engine with internals, you can do about 650. We have the other engine, which is a 3.6 liter, and that one with internals will do 800 plus.
So this one, I'm on the razor edge of having to go inside this motor
Correct.
at about 400 horsepower, but very little boost. 8
Correct.
pounds of boost, less than 8 pounds of boost to get to what we need to get
Right,
to.
between 5 and 8.
With this one. So what we're going to do here, guys, is we've got the motor on the stand. Chris has been around these things a ton. So what we're going to do is start stripping off the stuff that I don't need on this engine. There's power steering I don't need. There's a bunch of smog
Air conditioning,
stuff,
smog
air conditioning,
stuff, water cooler stuff, or oil cooler
Yeah.
stuff you don't need.
We're going to remove everything we can to make this the leanest version possible going into the car. But the first thing we have to do is get it up on a table. So I'm going to bring my fabrication table in, and we're going to figure out how to stick it on there from there. So all this is for the external oil cooler? This whole piece?
All of that.
Which is going to be eliminated.
Right. Yeah, you're not going to use it.
I'm going to have an external oil cooler, but I'll probably
You
end up-
can, you don't have to.
I don't have to? No real reason?
We
for
don't
this?
have them.
So nice to get rid of this stuff. Yeah. Yeah, no.
You know?
Yeah, no.
Why not?
You know, if I did it for a living, I would.
Well, you kind of do, don't you?
If you saw how little I make on this, I think I made $128 last month on this YouTube channel. So this whole section can come out now, and that's power steering, that's air conditioning. I don't need either of those, so I have a nice little setup. I'll probably have to get a custom belt.
Yeah, we
Made.
have all that at the shop. That's
Oh, you
not
do?
gonna worry. Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's
We have
nice. I'm
custom
so glad I
fender, we have
discovered you
custom
guys.
everything.
I'm so glad I discovered that out front is right down the road. So that is power steering gone. We're getting rid of all of this piping that is part of the external oil cooler. So I've gotten rid of a bunch of stuff. That's the external oil cooler, which is a little baby. I was gonna put a big fatty in here, but I'm glad I don't have to now. We're gonna replace these fuel rails with some fancy out front ones. I'm gonna ask Chris how to clean this motor up a little bit so it looks cool. And yeah, we're getting there. It's getting nakeder and nakeder. Gotta leave it to Subaru though. Pretty stuff comes off pretty easy, doesn't it? Look at that. Look at that.
Big chunks.
Look how pretty that is now. Not even quite done yet, but it's certainly getting there. So you know that a Porsche 3.2 intake will bolt right up to this?
Really?
Yep.
That's good right there.
So this is basically the last remaining tube of the oil cooler setup.
Correct.
And you'll end up plugging this.
Actually, since there is no water going through it, you can leave that open. It's just air at this point because you're going to take this one off that goes to the front, and it's just an open void at that point. Basically what this is this is the preheater for emissions. So then
Okay.
your throttle body is already getting warm from the water coming from the motor.
Got it. Okay. We ain't got to worry about emissions. So this is what it looks like, all naked. We're going to replace these OEM fuel rails with these really nice billet out front fuel rails. Replace the injectors with injectors that'll take E85. All of this oil cooler stuff all went away. And thankfully so, because it was blocking the headers. You couldn't actually run the headers also from out front, which I think I paid like $350 for, but the oil cooler goes there. and it was sticking out so far that they interfered with the headers, which, by the way, are used to going that way on this car. So these are obviously reversed. So this thing is basically stripped, and at this point, I'm going to figure out how to clean the thing up a little bit. I thought about maybe see if I could get this whole thing painted, but to take this thing off sucks, right? It's like a really crappy job.
It's a nightmare. All the silicone has to come off.
Yeah, so I probably won't do that. I might just have to clean it, you know, the old-fashioned way or something, but I'll ask a pro about that. And yeah, we're good to go. We're going to give a shot at bolting the headers on that I got from Outfront, and then see if we can get this thing remated with the transmission and size it up so we can start figuring out the engine cradle. So these are the headers. And Outfront makes headers that point forward and point backward, so you have to specify that when you're ordering them. But these guys do so many like sand rails and dune buggies that this is just an OEM part that they have. So it's killer. Yeah, it's one of the. This was kind of one of the really cool surprises of swinging by there, is realizing that I didn't have to make this myself, which was a little intimidating to me, to be honest.
Nope, it stays right there.
You're going to do that. Oh, cool. Remember? All right, Chris and I have gotten this thing. Man, it's within a few millimeters of where it's going to go. I just think it looks so good in there. Put this little alternator in the middle, kind of there-ish. And he also told me that I can reverse this intake, but I don't know if I will, but it's possible. But, I mean, look at that. Come on now. We've got some pretty easy fab for just getting the turbos mounted, get everything dialed in. And the next phase is going to be to get the cradle going. So I may actually start on that in this video. If not, Dave and I will start working on these, the hydraulic clutch and the drive-by-wire pedals. Well, that was an hour or two of good solid work. It looks awesome.
I think so.
Looks like it's supposed to. Now, Outfront makes a ton of little bits and bobs.
Everything.
To make this thing work.
And not
right?
only for the 3 liter, we also do for the 2.5 and the 2 liter. So if you have a different project, want to do something else, that's all there as well.
They make like just the plugs and weird little.
Everything.
You guys have thought about all this stuff.
We've been
You've
in
done
business
it a
for
million
25
times.
years.
So.
It's been gone through multiple times.
Yeah. So you know the
multiple
deal.
generations. Yeah.
So in a future video, I will go out to Outfront and pick up a pile of parts that we're going to use for this thing. The engine is so close to being where it's going to live right now, so we'll kind of make the adapter, cradle next, and get that thing dialed in, and then we're one step closer. Dude, thanks for hanging out in the garage.
No problem.
Appreciate it, man. Oh my God. Come on in. You guys have heard me a million times talk about Dave from TRE Motorsports. This is Dave in the flesh. Come a little closer this way, Dave.
There you go.
Yeah, there you are. TRE has done so many really cool Porsche builds, and they've been in all the magazines. You were like one of the original Mulholland Drive racer guys. In fact, on the TREmotorsports.com website, you're going to see a lot of really cool stories from this very man. Well, he's been nice enough to come down today to the Rennch garage, and we're just going to talk about a few things. We're going to talk about the pedal assembly and how to get that all functional, and the flares. And so far, you guys know I've been trying to figure out how I want to do the flares. There's been another, I don't want to say wrench, but there's been another thought today about how to do the flares. And so we're going to kind of muck with that a little bit. And that includes running 911 SC flares on the front and the rear, which, Dave, you said you've done in your life.
Yeah, it works out. You have to really look at your proportion, how you set it up. You want to make sure you center your wheel with the center of the flare. and you have to check your swing on the tire back and forth so you don't end up fouling the edges of the fender flare with your tire.
Right, because you can hit it. Because I think one of the, we'll show you guys in a second, but there's like a dip that happens with the SC flare that you don't get with a normal
Correct.
flare.
Because it's considerably wider now that you're reversing it, putting the back on the front. So your forward-facing angle of the SC flare, Carrera flare, is considerably wider than, say, an ST flare or proportionally a turbo flare.
But he brought me, I'll show you guys in a minute, but he brought me a really crappy, rusty SC flare that I can use to experiment with rounding the edges and kind of making my own custom version of them. So for now, we're going to go kind of experiment with what it looks like on the car, and we'll show you guys kind of from a distance, what it looks on the car. After working on the flares a bit to try to get the right proportions of actually using SC flares in the rear and the front, Dave and I are starting to futz with the pedal assembly. Remember, we're using a hydraulic clutch. I think the hydraulic clutch is from a 993, with like the cylinder. The pedals are from, what is it, 89? 89 Carrera into the 69 going into a 2004 G96. I mean, what could possibly go wrong? Harbor Freight pin punch set. Harbor Freight, if you want to sponsor us here, I take some Icon tools all day long.
Oh yeah.
All the stuff sticking out here, we just shaved off. So now we've got a nice, clean surface. This goes basically right up against the tunnel. So I had to move this entire pedal assembly over it. The OEM was about right here. We have to move it over enough so we can get this drive-by-wire throttle enough space to kind of live where it wants to live. So that's why I just ground all that stuff down. That was that whole situation.
Okay.
How's it looking?
All right. So
You want to go not that far over?
actually, I kind of do.
No, there's no way, dude. You can't put a clutch in right there. How are you gonna put a clutch in right there?
Hang on. So, go on the other side and check this.
Yeah, all right, there you
So you
go.
want to go there.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
And you want to move this
As close as humanly possible.
right there. So it
What do we have
still
to? We have
works.
to clearance the tub a little bit.
The tub, yeah. You have to get the tub low in that
Okay.
section.
All right.
So that'll work. And this will line up with your actuation lever.
Are you sure? It feels like it's gonna be off.
Well,
Let's-
your
let's-
lever
let's-
your lever is bent. I don't know who bent that lever.
Oh,
But
Is it actually bent?
Yeah, it's actually bent. It's supposed to be straight up and down.
okay. So what I could do is I could cut the floor out.
Yes.
and cut that bulb section.
Yes.
And then just fill in the flat.
Yeah.
On the
Make
inside.
it flat across.
Yeah, right, okay.
Okay, let's see that.
Stage 1 trim.
Not bad. Ideally, I'd like to see the gas pedal closer to the brake pedal. It's too far away.
Yeah, I need to go to the next level. All right. Well, Dave, the garage is a disaster.
Hey, that's the way projects go.
We did well, though, didn't we?
Yeah.
We got the flares. What do you think about the SC flare thing?
It's pretty unique. It's really neat. I really dig the way that it curves in. You know, it gives you extra little width at the front that matches up with the ST front bumper.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's almost perfect the way it is.
It's really close. So it's
Yeah.
going to be a challenge, but I think I'm going to have to source another set of SC flares and
I wonder where you can get
give them a
those.
go. If I were to go to TRE Motorsports, of course, guys, if you haven't already checked out the website tremotorsports.com, one of Dave's specialties is updating and backdating cars, doing 911R conversions, RSR conversions,
STs.
and ST conversions, where it's like it's like one SKU and you get everything you need to backdate the car.
Right.
You've done a million of them.
Yeah.
If you look at his work, all over Excellence Magazine, all over all the Porsche magazines, all over Instagram. So follow him on Instagram, tremotorsports.com. Today we got the pedal assembly a lot closer. Again,
Absolutely.
with Dave's knowledge and my cutting wheel. We got the pedals to work a lot closer. We're a lot closer to being able to figure out how to permanently mount them. We got the flares sized up, and I want to thank you for your
pleasure.
time.
My pleasure, Mike. Yeah, the drive-by-wire idea is great.
It's going to be cool.
It's going to be very cool modification.
And
That's nice.
It's built into the Haltech.
Yeah.
I was telling Dave that the Haltech has, let's see, it's got cruise control in addition to the drive-by-wire. It's got cruise control. It's got launch control, so you can have a launch control button on a 69 911, which would be crazy. And auto blip, which I think is really kind of rad. You can downshift and it'll automatically blip for you. So just really, really rad. I'm going to do a quick little wrap-up video right now, but I just want to say thanks to Dave for coming by. Thank you,
My
sir.
pleasure.
Well, that was like the best guest episode ever. Special thanks to Bob, who did that amazing machine work, Chris from Outfront Motorsports, and Cruise Infinity Machining. Definitely check them out on Instagram. And of course, Dave from TRE. Let me take you guys really quickly through what we did today. We stripped out a ton of stuff from the engine and made it look lean and mean like it does now. Got the adapter plate back on. Got the transmission and engine placed within a couple of millimeters, I hope. Then Dave came over and we got the SC flares in the front and the rear, repositioned them 300 times. The camera was on for some of it, but I ran out of battery. And got those things really close. I'm actually really excited about how they look right now. And then Dave and I got to work on the pedal assembly, shaving out bits that we didn't need, and taking the grinder to the plastic parts of the drive-by-wire pedal. So that was killer. That was a killer day in the garage. You can't see this really, but the garage is a complete and utter disaster right now. So I'm going to spend the next 30 minutes listening to my audiobook, cleaning everything out before I get to Ben the dog and throwing a ball for him because he's been like, bro, can we do this? For today's special comment thread, if you guys made it this far, put your Instagram in the comments. Everybody put their Instagram in the comments so we can all follow each other and get to know each other by awesome photos. If you're not on Instagram yet, well, then I'll have to figure something out down the road. Thanks so much for watching. I will talk to you soon.